Now on CoastTV News.
Community policing plans.
We're friends. We're not enemies. Come up and talk to us.
Why local chiefs and one local group gathered tonight. Protecting poultry. A new bill aimed to ensure Delaware's largest part of the economy stays safe. And tariff tango, a back and forth that's rattling the stock market and raising red flags.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
Positive communication between police and locals. Speak out against hate and police officers joining forces tonight. Good evening. I'm Christina DeRobertis. Welcome to CoastTV News at 11. We begin tonight with a discussion panel held this evening at the Lewis Library. The panel was hosted by the group called Speak Out Against Hate. They wanted to discuss the role of PACs, or Police Accountability Committees. The panel also featured two Sussex County police chiefs to answer questions. CoastTV News reporter Brendan Conroy is in our newsroom tonight. Brendan, this whole meeting was about transparency.
Yeah, Christina, according to Rehoboth Beach Police Chief Keith Banks, he says it's so that they can efficiently give the correct and accurate information to the locals about what's going on in town, and that way hopefully eliminate all of those hate crimes. Improving police transparency and the relationship between locals and those officers.
We're friends. We're not enemies. Come up and talk to us.
Speak Out Against Hate President Patty Maloney opened the panel. Maloney says hate can be found anywhere and people should use their voice to stand up against it.
The worst thing could be is if someone felt that they were not able to, they were intimidated in some way, to not report something. And we want to make sure that that is not the case.
One of the officers on the panel was Rehoboth Beach Chief of Police Keith Banks. Banks tells CoastTV communication, comfortability, and transparency among officers and locals is a must, and he's ready to listen.
You know what? We don't know all that information if they don't come up and speak out, and that's exactly what this group and the police department together wants people to speak out, be part of our group, and understand it.
Alicia Jones lives in Lewis and says if the mission of stopping the spread of hate is to continue, it starts with the next generation.
We want to get young people, kids in school, parents involved as well, because it starts there at that level to bring it home.
Locals and police working together for a positive relationship. Chief Banks also tells me following the panel that they're looking forward to putting all of those ideas and recommendations together moving forward. Christina?
All right, thank you for that, Brendan. New tonight, Delaware Congresswoman Sarah McBride introduced a bill she says will help Delaware farmers. Poultry, it's a major industry here in southern Delaware, and she says the goal of the Save Our Poultry Act is to prioritize researching avian flu, analyze poultry vaccination, and fund farmers to prevent the virus's spread. McBride notes that another part of the solution is to help farmers in the Inflation Reduction Act.
This administration needs to pay our farmers what they are owed. They're withholding nearly $10 million to help farmers improve their farming infrastructure and lower their energy bills.
And Representative McBride believes these steps would help Delaware farmers and even customers at the grocery store. Here's a live look outside tonight, and we're about to turn it over to our First Alert Chief Meteorologist, Paul Williams, for a check on our weather. Hey there, Paul.
Hey there, Christina, and hey there, everybody. Here comes the rain. And I'm not talking about that 80s song, Here Comes the Rain again. We're talking about the rain sticking around pretty much all weekend long, and it's starting a little bit early. We have light scattered showers that's beginning to make its impression throughout portions of Cambridge, Crapo, as well as Vienna. Right now, it's sliding towards the east-northeast at approximately 10 to 15 miles per hour, relatively slow movement. Now, we still have somewhat gusty winds along a portion of the coast. We still have active gale force wind watches in effect, watching out for about 35-mile-per-hour winds there. But aside from that, we're starting to get the early rounds of rain that's going to be in our area for tonight. But then it's going to pick up even more as we go into Friday and even going into Saturday and possibly into your weekend. We'll talk more about this coming up in a few moments. Till then, back to you.
Thank you for that, Paul. Now to Georgetown. The Town Council and Planning Commission there met this evening for a workshop on infrastructure and development projects. The town manager saying it was not a meeting to make any decisions on housing developments in Georgetown, but rather for town leadership to come together and review what does and does not work for the town as it moves forward.
Timing's actually pretty good for us, as the town will be entering into the 5-year mark on its comprehensive plan. So we'll be doing our 5-year review. So this will be good input to that, and then lead ultimately to the full participation from the public.
And that workshop tonight was at First State Community Action Agency there in Georgetown. And this story does bring us to our Coast TV poll tonight. We want to know what concerns you most about development in Georgetown. Let's take a look at the updated results. Take a look here at your screen. You can see 65% say they're most worried about traffic. A few say overcrowded schools, losing open space, or rising costs. But we want to know what you think about this question, so go over to CoastTV.com or use our mobile app to vote. You can see some updated results online. And staying in Georgetown, the maintenance work at Route 9 has been pushed back again due to expected weather coming this weekend. On your screen now is the railroad crossing. It's on East Market Street. The Delmarva Central Railroad Company was set to do maintenance April 9th, but now work is supposed to start April 14th. Drivers should be prepared for lane and shoulder closures along with traffic. Well, a new piece of history pulled into the station this morning in Lewis. Just after 9 a.m., the new car was placed on the railroad tracks beside the iconic red caboose. This addition is part of the Lewis Junction and Railroad Association's efforts to bring Lewis locomotive history back to life. People who use the trail beside the installment are eager to see how the exhibits grow.
I'm able to go by, see the progress on the trail, the locomotive, and it's a good location for people to walk, ride their bikes, and be able to observe the work that they're doing on the railroad project. So it's very good.
And the organization is now in the planning phase for yet another addition to the tracks. In the meantime, both existing parts of the train will be prepared for tours. Well, since they were enacted, we've been covering the tariffs in the U.S. and here on Delmarva. And President Trump pausing many tariffs on many countries, but hiked imports from China up to 125%. As Coast TV News reporter Emma Aiken shows us, some local businesses say they're just stuck in limbo right now.
Brandy Bailey organizing video games. She owns Game On Video Games and More in Rehoboth Beach. Nearly the entire store is filled with products from China, Mexico, and Japan. And she says since tariffs started, it hasn't been good news from those distributors.
They just announced to us yesterday that they're going to be raising their prices. So we're trying to hold out to see if we can ride it out so that we don't have to raise prices is honestly what we're trying to do.
Bailey says the tariffs will make it harder for certain pieces to get shipped over and that's a struggle for small businesses in general, whereas a larger company may have more resources to buffer a tariff. For Rehoboth Breeze co-owner John Riley Spillane, they get a lot of their clothes from overseas too, but he says after the election, they took a gamble that paid off.
We actually over-ordered in anticipation of tariffs going into effect, and that they may be impacting the cost of the goods that we purchase from our vendors.
Businesses we've spoken to over the past week tell Coast TV the current tariff situation is full of unknowns. While it's too early to tell what will happen, they say it is having an impact right now.
So I know ideally production should be happening in the U.S. in order to support the U.S. economy, but that takes decades to build.
In Rehoboth Beach, Emma Aiken, Coast TV News.
And President Trump continuing to defend his plan to impose widespread tariffs on imported goods, even as stocks in the U.S. plunge again. Investors appear pessimistic that despite the president lowering many of his new tariffs, there's still no end in sight to the trade war with China. And now Democrats are asking for an investigation into the timing of that decision. NBC's Yamishi Allen-Sindor has the details from Washington.
As American stock markets were plunging yet again, President Trump insisting his tariff plan to reshape the world economy is working.
We think we're doing very well. Again, there'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
White House officials claim pausing so-called retaliatory tariffs was always the plan once U.S. trade partners started clamoring for new trade deals. And they denied the plummeting stock market forced them to act. But the president admitted Wednesday he heard complaints from business leaders and investors.
People were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy.
A senior administration official told NBC News concerns about the bond market helped convince the president to reverse course, dropping tariffs on most trade partners to 10% for 90 days.
And there's no doubt that the Treasury market yesterday made it so that the decision that, it's about time to move was made, I think, with perhaps a little more urgency, but it was going to happen at any moment anyway.
But the president's trade war with China continues to escalate. The White House clarifying Thursday imported Chinese goods face a 145% tariff. American businesses struggling to keep up.
They're getting, like every 12 hours, notices, emails from their suppliers in China repricing their goods. That is a hard way to run a business.
Wisconsin ginseng exporter Will So is among those caught in the middle.
I never thought I'd be fighting in a war, but I guess I'm fighting in a trade war.
Now Democrats want to know who inside the White House knew about the tariff pause and when, floating accusations of insider trading, and calling for an independent investigation after the stock markets temporarily soared.
When the president sends out a tweet saying it's time to buy, you can bet his friends who are in the know are buying. I think it deserves the closest scrutiny.
I think any idea of insider trading is ridiculous.
And we are just getting started this evening. Still a lot more to tell you about. Coming up, the latest information after a helicopter crashed into New York's Hudson River today. But first, protecting the history of Ocean Pines, how homeowners are coming together to make a difference. That's up next.
And as you take a look at the bay forecast, we see scattered showers making its way across the bay at this present time. Your full forecast coming right up.
Time flies, and if you don't take a little time to commemorate the good moments, those memories can fade away. In today's Coastal Connections, reporter Kevin Zappé shows us how one group in Ocean Pines is trying to keep history alive in their community.
Inside the Ocean Pines Administration Building is a room dedicated to sorting through the history of the community. Elaine Brady and Jenny Cropper-Ryan spend hours volunteering to sort everything out.
We're sort of at a crossroads where the history is going to be gone if we don't do something with it.
The Ocean Pines Historical Task Force started 9 months ago and has around a dozen local volunteers working and sorting through hundreds of pictures showcasing the town's past. And through these images, you could see everything from the transformation of the canals in 1969 to the start of the yacht club, which is now a staple to the community and even has a handcrafted model boat created by an Ocean Pines local in 1955. Other before and after pictures include the golf club building and the Ocean Pines Beach Club in Ocean City, something Brady says is an important spot for the community to meet.
People are very, very active and very friendly because they've come from all over, and so they want to make new friendships here.
If you're looking to dive into the rich history of Ocean Pines right now, there's currently a book you could buy for $20 that will show you how things changed over the 30-year span from 1968 to 1998. And plans for another book are in the works.
I think the biggest thing that we'll be looking at is to do a coffee table book. That's something that people have a lot of interest in, and it's an easy way to learn about Ocean Pines from the beginning to the present.
According to Brady, the new Ocean Pines book is still in the early stages, so you'll have to wait around 2 years to pick up that one and read, which gives you enough time to read the current Ocean Pines book that's out now. I'm Kevin Zappé in Ocean Pines, Coast TV News.
The cloud cover is on the increase, and in fact, the rain's sneaking in a little bit ahead of schedule, but it all is going to be relatively light stuff as of right now. In Milford, we're right now at 46 degrees, calm conditions at this point. Now, we are going to pick up scattered showers in Milford for the next 4 to 5 hours in a row. And you know what? Once the rain starts going, it's going to keep going and going and going, kind of like that Energizer Bunny kind of thing, you know? But we are expecting that, and the winds are staying active as well. There's a gale wind watch. It's in effect for Friday going into Saturday until Saturday evening for the Lewis, Rehoboth, Dewey Beach, Ocean View, Fenwick Island beaches. Now, this is talking about 30 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts when we talk about a gale wind watch, okay? Now, we also have a small craft advisory. Now, both of these are wind advisories, but one's not so strong compared to the other. In fact, the small craft advisory is a little bit weaker at 25 mile per hour wind gusts. So 35 up there, 25 Ocean City, down towards Chincoteague, 25 miles per hour. Same concern for us with the small craft advisory over in the Cambridge area. And Cambridge is where we're picking up the scattered showers right now. This is relatively light precipitation at this point. And this is just the beginning of the precipitation that we're expecting. This is the first initial wave. I want you to think of it more as an hors d'oeuvre before the main meal arrives. And the main meal, we'll be chomping on rain for the rest of Friday, okay? This is just, like I said, this is just a teaser to get us going here. We have a low-pressure system that's going to be centered off of our coast. The counterclockwise rotation is going to bring in really a moisture-laden wind and a flow of air in the lower atmosphere that's going to basically weave its way across all of the Delmarva Peninsula. That's going to translate into periods of rain, heavy at times, inland and coastal flooding. It's going to be a possibility because this is a relatively sluggish moving system. Add on top of that a few areas of embedded thunderstorms. They won't stick around for long, but when they hit, they're going to move so slow that the impact's going to be about the rain that it drops, okay? So by 10:30, that embed itself will move out of the way, but it's going to be a relatively slow mover. Same holds true for us for Friday for Ocean Pines, Berlin, and Newark as well. Now, when it moves off on Saturday, it moves out of the way pretty nicely, and right now the latest model is indicating it's going to move efficiently out of the way. But we still have a shot of at least an inch of rain throughout most locations for that time period. Finally, here's a look at the 7-day forecast. A couple of things to keep in mind. Cloudy and rainy all day Friday, spotty on Saturday, but cooler, 47 for the high, but 41 for the low. So because of the cloud cover, we're not going to go down as low as we typically would, but we're not going to reach up to our normal high either. So we're going to stay in the 40s all day long. Sunday's going to be cloudy, but we will warm to 60. We'll warm to 71 on Monday. Let's not even talk about tax day. Okay, anyway, and then on Wednesday, 57 degrees, and we'll go back up to 60 degrees on Thursday. But I think next week we can finally come out of the basement with all these crazy 30-degree temperatures.
Good to hear. Thanks again, Paul. Well, the Federal Aviation Administration has replaced air traffic control managers at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. The FAA said in a statement it's brought in a new management team. And the move comes after serious safety incidents at the D.C. area airport in recent months, including January's mid-air collision between a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines regional jet that killed 67 people. And that announcement about the management changes was made before another incident at Reagan National Airport today. This time, 2 planes bumping wings while on the ground. It involved 2 American Airlines passenger planes, one headed to Charleston and the other to JFK in New York. Several members of Congress were on board, including Representative Nick LaLota, who posted this picture on social media. The airport says both planes returned to their gates and no injuries were reported. There was no impact to flight operations. And just this afternoon, 6 people were killed when a helicopter crashed into the Hudson River in New York. First responders worked to pull people from the water. Lee Waldman is on the scene with the details, but a warning, this report contains some disturbing video.
Video footage captured the moment the helicopter fell from the sky. 3 children and 3 adults were on board. Divers worked to rescue the pilot and 5 passengers on the sightseeing helicopter that submerged after crashing into the Hudson River.
At this time, all 6 victims have been removed from the water. And sadly, all 6 victims have been pronounced deceased.
The NYPD reported the helicopter crash at Pier 40 around 3:17 this afternoon. Rescue efforts got underway with emergency vehicles flooding into the surrounding area. Officials say they arrived on scene within minutes.
NYPD divers pulled 4 people from the crash site, and FDNY divers recovered an additional 2. Immediate life-saving measures were undertaken on the vessels at the scene, as well as the adjoining pier. 4 victims were pronounced dead on scene, and 2 more were removed to local area hospitals. where sadly both succumbed to their injuries.
Authorities report that the helicopter had been in the air for about 16 minutes before this crash. The victims, a family visiting the U.S. from Spain, according to New York Mayor Eric Adams.
We were met by the first responders and they told us they did everything they can to try to save these victims. And you can see the trauma in their face. They did everything they can, and they wanted me to make sure that I made that public. They really tried their hardest.
In New York, I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
Coming up in sports tonight, day one of the Masters is in the books. We have a recap of some of the top moments from Augusta.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
A Senate committee today dedicated time to talk about time. The Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee convened a hearing about daylight saving time. The committee looking at the twice-yearly clock change and its impact on Americans. Also possibly making standard time or daylight saving time permanent.
We know that changing the clock disrupts sleep, which can lead to negative health outcomes. Several studies have noted issues with mood disturbances, increased hospital admissions, and even heart attacks and strokes. We also know that being able to see the sun improves mental and physical health as well. But more than that, time changes can impact the safety of our communities. Darker commuting times increase the risk of injuries and even death on our way to school or work.
Moving on now, it's a leading cause of death for children in the U.S. The CDC says every year there are around 4,000 fatal, unintentional drownings. But health experts say these tragedies can be prevented. In tonight's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to a pediatric doctor about how to keep kids safe in the water.
It can happen in an instant. Experts say drownings are often quick and silent without even a single splash.
As a pediatric ER doctor, we see drownings come in very frequently during the summer and when swim season starts.
That's why Dr. Sarah Lazarus with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says it's so important to make water safety a priority. Whether children or teens are swimming in a pool or at a beach, drowning is preventable.
Every time I hear it happens so quickly. A parent may just turn their back, and when they turn around, their child is underwater.
Lazarus says if your child can't swim 2 lengths of the pool without assistance, parents should be within arm's reach of the child at all times. Once the child is a competent swimmer and can go 2 pool lengths without stopping, parents can graduate to eyes reach supervision, always keeping an eye on the child in the water. She says it's also important to avoid distractions and to make sure there's a 4-sided self-latching fence around any pool you visit. A Coast Guard approved life jacket should also be worn, especially in open water. And if a parent can't swim, Lazarus says it's never too late to learn.
Remember, because you are your child's best lifeguard, it's so important that you also have those swim skills.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And Dr. Lazarus says it's also important to know how to do CPR just in case there's an emergency. She says at the start of the swim season, it's also a good idea to recheck your child's competence in the water to make sure their skills haven't changed since last year. Moving to sports tonight, the 89th Masters tournament teed off this morning and it runs through Sunday. DSN's Tim Nolan recaps day one.
Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
Day one of the Masters has come to a close at Augusta National. Let's take a look at some of the top moments from earlier today. Fred Couples, at age 65, sinks the long birdie chip to start his day. That would put him at 1 under. The 1982 Masters champ, he had a couple more tricks in his bag. After falling to 1 over, the Hall of Famer takes out the 6-wood on 14 from 190 yards out. Good luck trying this one at Nutters. It's an eagle on 14. He'd finish at 1 under on the day. Englishman Justin Rose has the lead at 7 under par. World number 1 Scotty Scheffler is in a 3-way tie for second at 4 under. Here on the shore, we had a bevy of games on DSN and DSN Plus. In Laurel, the Bulldogs took care of Seaford in girls soccer, 7-0 the final. Autumn Camper scored 4 to lead the way. Kelsey Waters tallied 2 of her own. Janet Gutierrez Diaz and Isabella Banks both scored as well in the win. Laurel has its first win of the season. The Dogs host Sussex Tech tomorrow at 4 p.m. And Caesarati boys volleyball just keeps on rolling. The Riders haven't dropped a set thus far. They topped Cape Henlopen this afternoon 25-22 in the first set, 25-20 in the second, and 25-21 to cap it off. Caesar Rodney now 27 sets, 27 wins. Riders play again next Tuesday against Dover. That do for sports tonight.
Don't forget, each and every Friday, you can cheer up with a weekly dose of local good news from Coast TV. It's full of features, cool things to do every weekend, and more. And you can sign up for free. Just go to coasttv.com/sign-up.
All right, we're signing up for some cloudy skies for the rest of the night, courtesy of our tunnel and razor camera. 46 degrees right now in Lewis. We're going to drop down to, we'll stay in the 40s, 47 by 2 and 3 o'clock. And that's also when the rain's going to arrive. In fact, we're starting to get some early evidence of that precipitation as we speak. It's in Cambridge right now, moving quickly across the Delmarva Peninsula. Greg Salem of Millsboro, congratulations. You're our new umbrella winner, and you're going to be able to use that umbrella for Friday, to be honest, courtesy of Paul Davis Restoration and Home Remodeling. If you need the latest update on your forecast, call our weather line at 443-880-9100. Your forecast is just a call away. Sponsored by the law offices of Bruckstedt, Mendalis, and Federico. And let's talk about your exclusive 10-day forecast. Okay, rainy all day for Friday. Hardly any look at any kind of sunshine at all. We're going to stay cloudy on Saturday, but we're only going to warm it to just 47, but we won't dip below 41.
All right, thank you again, Paul, and thanks to you at home for joining us for Coast TV News at 11 tonight. For some more local news and local weather, you can always download our Coast TV News app. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, that's up next. We'll see you tomorrow for Coast TV News at 5 a.m. Have a great night.